Hello there, and welcome to the second episode of the Birdscast. It turns out we bit off a little bit more than we could chew when it comes to the next video we had planned, but we still wanted to make some content anyway and get in touch with you good folks. So we threw out some questions on Twitter and YouTube, and here we go. Nokwe?
These questions are going to be amazing. And to starting with the first question, which is pretty straightforward, it's from Salo over on YouTube. And the question simply goes, how are you? So I'll let you answer first. How are you?
How am I? Well, it's fast approaching summertime here in Iceland, so we've got plenty of sunshine and the grass is getting greener and vitamin D is penetrating my skin pretty regularly now. So all in all, not bad. And it's Eurovision season, which is always my favorite time of year. But how are you?
I'm pretty good. We are finishing up the semester at school, so I'm handing out all the grades, and I'm also planning or in the final stages of planning my trip to Japan for the summer. So I will be getting penetrated by a lot of vitamin D over there, and that's something to look forward to, but it's also something that I have to prepare for a lot. The first thing I had to do was get a visa, and that was a real headache because Japan has been closed off due to the pandemic. But yeah, so I'm pretty good, but there's a lot of stuff going on, which also contributed to making it a bit difficult to make a video.
Yes, but the next video is going to be a doozy, so stay tuned, right?
It's going to be fantastic.
It's called marketing, baby.
Yeah, Final Fantastic.
What's it going to be? Well, yeah.
Well, it's
anyways.
We can tell them what the next video is.
Well, then this podcast won't be timeless because people can't come back to it time and time again for our witty banter. But no, yeah, we're working on a next complete story video for Final Fantasy XV. It's my second playthrough since it came out originally, and I sort of got to spend some more time with it on an intimate level and do all the DLC and all that stuff. I enjoyed it immensely, really. I know there's people have sort of mixed opinions about it, but I think you and I are quite in the same boat, right?
Well, I started to replay it as well the other day, and the thing that really struck me is just how fun it is. Like, it does maybe have its flaws, but it might actually be the most fun Final Fantasy game, mainline Final Fantasy game out there.
Yeah, it is. I get that it's different. It is different. It's really ambitious too. Like the story is, the scope is really grand, and the world is obviously really big, and the sort of open world, but not really thing with the dungeons and all that stuff. I enjoyed it. If I had one sort of complaint, is it was maybe a tad too ambitious. Like I liken it to delicious jam, like spread a little bit too thin on a delicious piece of bread, if you know what I mean. Like there's some rough edges here and there that could have been maybe done better. There's inconsistent visuals and tone and all this stuff, but when it does work, it really does work, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, and also just like there's so much jam just still left in the jar when it comes to the lore, because the lore is there, but it's not very apparent in the game. So it's not until you start to write a script for something like the complete story of Final Fantasy XV, or really dive into the lore, that you get the full scope of the world and how sort of innovative it is and interesting, really. It's something that is very easy to overlook when you're just playing the game.
Yeah, I felt that too. It's like it's hinted at and talked about obviously in game, but then like playing the episode Arden DLC, you literally get a room full of backstory, which you can sort of just page through and look at photos and stuff like that. And now there was a lot of new stuff there to me, like just the origins of the world and the gods and all that stuff. And I wish they had found a better way of showing me and telling me than just here's a list of it in a room in a late game DLC.
And like even if it was just in a room, the room should have come a lot earlier. Because
yes,
as you say,
I should have been playing Noctis, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would have informed the rest of the journey in a very meaningful way, I think.
Like all this Ifrit and Shiva stuff, like there's a lot of it, but in the main game, I didn't really, it didn't feel like it was taking center stage.
Yeah. And hopefully that answers the question, how are you?
Generally well, and also played Final Fantasy 15. So yeah.
Yeah. So next question. It's from Bloodshade over on YouTube. And the question is, what advice would you have given yourself a year ago or 5 years ago?
It's 2 questions. Right.
Well, you can pick the time frame. You can answer both or just one of them.
I don't know. It's hard to answer this without being like really personal and like boring. Like, I would have chosen a different job or something, which is not true. But 5 years ago, I was in London doing visual effects. And I mean, that was a really precious experience to me. I got to work on films like Star Wars and other big name projects. And that was great. And I wouldn't change that. But I mean, I'm struggling to just, you know, I don't start YouTube earlier. I don't know.
Like, oh, you stole my answer.
Yeah,
because that's really what I would have done.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
because it's been a lot of fun, and it's fun to be your own boss, really. And yeah, it's not like we're making tens of dollars, by the way. So it's not like we're there yet, but we hope to be one day.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not very lucrative at the moment, but hopefully it will become more lucrative because that would also give us more freedom to make the stuff we want to make.
For instance, like the latest thing we did, like the top 5 hottest SIDS, was one of my favorite things we ever made because it's an opportunity to be funny and dramatic at the same time and sort of probe at this weird fan base. Like nobody gets this video unless you like Final Fantasy. Like, they get that it's funny and you're talking about men in a sexy way, but, like, you have to know who Sid is to, like, really appreciate it. And that's the kind of content I really like to do.
Yeah, so it would be great to get more freedom and more time, really, to make content that we are satisfied with. So yeah, like, if I would get to talk to myself from 5 years ago, I would definitely tell myself to start YouTube a bit earlier because YouTube it's such an interesting phenomena. If I would have been a real part of the YouTube generation, I think in high school, for example, like there's so much I could have learned and contributed to stuff. Yeah, that's great. Great input. You take over.
I was just thinking about something. Yeah, like I was just thinking about the Sid video still, because when we first released it, like in the first minutes, we lost a bunch of subscribers. That's like, they just saw, like, now we're doing clickbait content or something, or they didn't like the hot males or the sexual overtones. I sort of freaked out, like, like this is the truest version of myself, and the people do not like it. But I was really happy to see that it took off, not in a major way, but people did like it, and the comments made me laugh all the time.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I'm still on that. Sorry.
It was a lot of fun. I would love to make more like fun content.
Yeah, like advice 5 years ago, like, work out more, be kinder to people. I don't know, general stuff like be careful about COVID, buy some Bitcoin, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. I'm not going to read the entire question because a part of it is actually a spoiler for Final Fantasy XIV. Which you haven't finished, and maybe some of our listeners haven't finished, but like this time we told ourselves we're going to reach the end game, and I did. Like, I played it pretty.
I started playing Persona 5, which is really, really, really long, which sort of took up all my time, and I had to play it consistently to be invested, and that was around 200 fucking hours or something.
But Endwalker is really great, so you should really get on that.
Yes.
But yeah, so the question is from Firith from YouTube. It's a 2-parter. So the first part is, when will the next part of A Tale of Translation Whatever be ready? And that's referring to the Final Fantasy VIII translation series. And
10, I guess.
Well, he says whatever. So he's talking specifically about Final Fantasy VIII. So I will probably just take this question. I would love to continue that series as well as the Final Fantasy X series, and I will. At least I'm planning a video for the Final Fantasy X series this summer, hopefully. But the thing I will say about the Final Fantasy VIII series is that it's so much work. And for such a small channel that is trying to grow its viewer base, it's very hard to sort of justify the work that goes into those videos because it takes time away from other more quote unquote lucrative videos that we could be making.
And let me just throw in there, like it's just not getting the views, which is like a shitty thing to say. Like you should do it for the passion, but honestly, it's the bang for buck thing. And the Final Fantasy VIII, I don't really work on it, but it's so much manual labor because it's like a non-voiced over game. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, like it's a lot easier to make the Final Fantasy X videos, for example, because for some reason I made the decision to like read all the lines out in Japanese to the benefit of no one.
Yeah, you just made work for yourself.
Yeah. But so hopefully I will be like, I want to continue that series. And also when a game like Final Fantasy XVI comes around, I would love to do a translation analysis of that if that game is good. And it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be worth it.
No. It has to be
good. It has to be good. Like,
otherwise, this is just over.
Yeah. As a Final Fantasy channel, we have kind of gotten burnt before. Like we were really
like Crystal Chronicles. I dare you to go back and listen to watch our Get Hype Hallowed series and 5 things to fix about Crystal Chronicles, because we were really banking on that being a hit. But it just made a really, really small splash.
Yeah, like also just the Crystal Chronicles port wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And of course we got like Stranger of Paradise recently, but we aren't making any money, so it was I haven't actually bought the game yet, even though I was very interested in playing it. But like it's the price of a new game, so
it's these spin-offs like Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, Stranger of Paradise, like technically Final Fantasy stuff, but it's really risky to. It hasn't really paid off. It hasn't paid off for us to bank on them too hard, and because if they're not huge hits, we're not going to get any views. Which again shouldn't be the point, but it's not fun to work hard on a video and get 100 views. Again, maybe that shouldn't be the point, but sometimes it is really.
Mm. But yeah, so hopefully we will see the return of A Tale of Translation, whatever, for Final Fantasy VIII. In the meantime, we will try to get more people on board, so that kind of a series will be able to sustain itself.
And hey guys, if you like Final Fantasy Translation, then tell your friends and share it around the internet, right?
Oh yeah.
Marketing.
So there's a second part to the question. How long did it take to learn Japanese, and when did you start? So both of us have actually studied Japanese. I started to study Japanese when I was in high school, and then I went on to university, and then I moved to Japan as an exchange student. So it's been, I don't even know how old I am now, but like rough quick maths, if I do quick maths, I've probably like spoken Japanese in one form or another for around 17 years now, which is a bit scary.
It is scary, yeah. I also studied it in high school and did some of it in university as well, before sort of pivoting towards more graphical and 3D stuff. At some point, I wasn't out of it fluent, but I've had conversations in Japanese, and I have much regret, but also have no time to study it. But whenever I go to Japan, I make a concerted effort, like a couple of months before, to sort of brush up and have some small conversations, and that's really fulfilling anyway.
Yeah, Peter is the life of the party when you go downtown.
Hell yeah,
in Osaka.
Because I know buzzwords and weird sentences that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great. Next question is from Jeff Yard from Twitter. So, following the top 5 sexy Sids,
good video.
Which iteration of Biggs and Wedge do you think is the hottest?
So I'm trying to think of the iterations that sort of pop into my head. We've got 14. They're just like they're a Lalafell and I still call them Galkas like in Final Fantasy 11, but they are, what are they called? The big guys in 14?
Road again.
Yes, not Galkas. And then there's the one that pops into my head is the ones from Final Fantasy VIII, but you don't really see their faces. They're just, manly men in soldier uniforms.
But like, if I were to pick the sexiest Biggs and Wedge, it would probably be them. Like, of course, in the Final Fantasy VII remake, Biggs looks like a fucking supermodel.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Yeah, but he's kind of balanced out by Wedge, and he's kind of too hot. Like,
he is. He's distractingly hot. That's true. I forgot about him.
But like Biggs and Wedge in Final Fantasy 14, like it's a bit too kinky for me because like one is huge.
There's like a furry situation going on. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to kink shame, but like it's not my thing. But like Biggs and Wedge in Final Fantasy VIII, they have this sort of sub-dom relationship.
Anyways, next question, please.
So next question is from Final Fantasy fan 012. Do you plan on doing some sort of spotlight videos on the classes throughout the Final Fantasy series?
It's not in the current plan, but we've talked about it, and I don't see why not. They've got some staples here and there, right?
The closest thing we've done to something like that is doing an Ifrit video for Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, I'm not doing that again. God damn.
Which featured a very poop-like bronze statue in the thumbnail.
But there's some fucking awesome custom 3D content in it, so please take a look. I worked really hard on that video, and it flopped like a dead duck. So.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's something that we might consider doing at some point. But like at the moment, our complete story series is what is sort of driving the channel and is consistently getting new viewers to the channel because people are apparently searching for it.
Yeah, and it's something that sets us apart from the other Final Fantasy YouTubers, I think. Like, Final Fantasy Union has got a lot of these things covered. Like here's the complete story of Ifrit or something. Not the complete story, but here's the history of Ifrit or the Dragoon or something. And not that we can't do it too. We put our own spin on it. But we also like to just sort of have a nice little niche of things we do well. And I mean, we've both grown as content creators, quote unquote, like our voiceover and audio skills and all that stuff. And it's really like quite pleasing to go back and listen to the old stuff and go, which we thought was quite good at the time, but it holds up. But we've obviously improved in a lot of ways. And, it's fun to have a record of that, so to speak.
And hopefully we will just continue to improve. And it's like we said, we don't have any plans at the moment, but we don't rule it out either. So next question is from Signy Jóhannesdóttir.
Great girl.
And the question is, what's your favorite Eurovision entry this year?
So if you're American or not based in Europe, you might not even know what Eurovision is. Well, it's a goddamn institution. The Eurovision Song Contest is 60 years old by now or something? It was sort of held to... Yeah,
59 years old or something.
Yeah, it was formed to sort of glue Europe back together after the war. Hey, let's all be friends and sing together. And at this point, it's like 200 million people watching every year. And as it happens, today was the second semi-final, which I just watched. Do you have an answer? Favorite this year?
Yeah, like it's either Sweden or the UK. But I do think the UK is a stronger contender. But like I imagine that Ukraine is going to get a lot of points just because of the situation.
It's also not a bad song with Ukraine. But I think the UK, Sam Ryder, the UK entry was my favorite too. But as people predicted, like they really can't do staging, as in he's wearing a ridiculous cowboy outfit and they just messed up the staging, and I think that's going to hurt him a lot. But I do like Sam Ryder. He's a solid guy. Other than that, I voted for Austria because it reminded me of there's a band called Toy Box, which is a Danish sort of, if you guys know the band Aqua, which is also it's like Euro pop from the early 2000s. And the Austrian song reminded me of Toy Box, so I voted for them. But they were, sadly, they did not make it through. They first semifinals.
Yeah, I like them as well.
Anyways, nobody cares about this, so let's move on.
Okay, so next question is from Genesis Stubbs from YouTube. Hello, do you speak any other languages? Can you tell us more about learning Japanese? So, do you speak any other languages, brother?
Well, I speak Icelandic. I speak English. Passable Danish. I used to be pretty good at French, but it's been years now. Japanese, conversational, very, very conversational, as in, ooh, nice hat. How much is that hat? How much is this meal? Where's the bathroom? And stuff like that. But that's about the extent of it. You, brother?
Yeah, I speak Icelandic, of course, and passable English, and also Japanese. My Danish is not passable, even though I'm able to order a hot dog or a slice of pizza and stuff like that.
I mean, Danish, we could study intensely for a month, then we'd be brought back to speed. It's mandatory here in school, and we've done years and years of it. But yeah, it's ingrained at this point, but not something you use every day or every month or every year, really.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you more about learning Japanese?
Keep this short, please.
I will keep this short. What I will say is that compared to when I was studying Japanese, there are so many more resources readily available online now. You have YouTube and people teaching on YouTube, and you have free textbooks online, and also just like with platforms such as Netflix, you can watch content with Japanese subtitles, and that helps a lot if you have already reached that stage of Japanese. Like if I watch Japanese content with English subtitles, I usually just read the subtitles. So it's very nice for me to have the Japanese subtitles, because that way I will be focused on the Japanese. So if you're starting to study Japanese, best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to you. And there are plenty of things out there that can help you do that. So next question is Andrew. I'll keep it simple this time. What has your favorite video to create? What?
What's been your favorite video to create?
What's been your favorite video to create so far? And least favorite video? I have my answers, but I'm curious to hear about.
Yeah, I definitely have a least favorite video. And again, I dare you to go look at the Get Hypeload for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which is, first of all, a really weird premise for a series, banking on the popularities of Hypelos from Final Fantasy X, which nobody cares about. But then we took it way too far with really intricate CG cutscenes, and I made stained glass Hypelos and really pretty things, but the rendering and the time it took to make them was just astronomical and ridiculous for a video which just that didn't really get any views, and it's about a game that didn't really take off, and it's a fine video, but just the amount of needless CG we put in that just really took a toll on me mentally. So least favorite video for you?
Least favorite video to create is probably the Final Fantasy VIII translation series, because it's so labor heavy, intensive, yeah. So it's so labor intensive, but it's also very interesting, I feel, and I really like to compare the games, but it's so much work.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite video you created?
What was fun to create?
I mean, to be honest, we keep going on about it, but Sid was really fun, because we just got to sit in a corner and write about just ridiculous things about handsome men. But other than that, just I'll take the answer from you. I really enjoy the complete story series, because I get to just work on my narration skills. In particular, I'm proud of Final Fantasy XII. I worked really hard on that one, and I hope you guys liked it. If you haven't seen it, and if you haven't, go look at it. Yeah,
Yes,
that series is my favorite.
But yeah, like I really like that series, and I sometimes just play the videos. But for me, it's definitely not something that is enjoyable to create, in the sense that like it takes about 12 hours to write the script, and it takes a long time to edit and stuff like that. But like it's not the worst thing I can imagine, but like it's very labor intensive as well.
Yeah, and most of the videos now come with a sort of custom intro, which is, it's fun to make, but it's also under pressure. But I guess my answer is really then I like to work on my narration skills, and that series is a very good opportunity for that, but they are very labor intensive. That's true. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but I really liked making the Final Fantasy X in the wild video.
In the wild?
In the wild.
Yeah, that's another video people should go watch, because it's one of the ones we're trying to be funny in.
Yeah, I want to make a new thumbnail for that video and sort of try to reintroduce it to the world.
If you want behind the scenes on that, we wanted to try to actually incorporate in-game footage from the game in the thumbnail to see if people like that more. Turns out they don't really like that more, and we just should have drawn something, but we're just complaining now. Let's move on.
Yeah. So next question is from Jose Padron. Jose Padron. What are your hopes for Final Fantasy XVI?
I hope it's good.
Yeah, I also hope it's good. I don't really have any specific preferences. Like I have learned with games like Final Fantasy 13 and 14 and 15 not to have a specific set of expectations, and just go into it and appreciate it for what it is. And I am fairly confident that Yoshi P and the others will be able to deliver that experience. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what it will be. That being said, I'm hoping that we won't have to wait too long for the introduction of Final Fantasy XVII, because with a series like Final Fantasy that has so much experimentation, if too much time passes in between games, the sort of pressure that is put on any individual experiment becomes so much that it can create a sort of toxic environment, or the fandom can get pretty sour until the next game comes along. And we see that with games like 13, that it sort of gets more popular.
And Kingdom Hearts. It's a great example of just like way too much time passing and then creating a bunch of weird games in the middle. And that's sort of what happened, I feel, with the Final Fantasy series as well. Bunch of sort of experimentations. Like we've got this Battle Royale, First Soldier, and we got Strangers of Paradise. And like they're fine products, but they are sort of a bit out there for the series.
And those are the outliers. And also just talking about like the mainline series. It's a bit like when the sequel trilogy in Star Wars came out, and then the defenders of the prequel trilogy started to sort of emerge.
Yeah, which is weird because they had nothing but hate for 15, 20 years. And then suddenly, in comparison, they're not bad.
Yeah, but like I always loved The Phantom Menace, and I'm a prequel guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of detach yourself from I was 10 when I saw it, and I created feelings and emotions around it then, and that haven't really faded.
It's an amazing film.
I'm not going to get into The Phantom Menace with you right now. Like, we had this discussion at work the other day, like, if you have never seen Star Wars and where should you start? There was really heated discussions about people wanted to start with the prequels. I said, hell to the no. If you've never seen Star Wars and you want to experience this sort of cultural phenomena, you start with episode 4.
Yeah,
and you watch that trilogy.
Yeah,
and then
you definitely.
if you want to see more stuff, then you can go back or forward to whatever. The world is your oyster, but you do start with number 4.
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't start with The Phantom Menace. But the thing that The Phantom Menace does is that it introduces a new world just right off the bat with new aesthetics, and it's a new thing. And you get the feeling for that right away, which is something you didn't get with the sequel trilogy, sadly.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on the sequel trilogy.
But yeah, so like I'm excited to see how Final Fantasy XVI will be its own thing. And
yeah, I mean we've seen relatively little of the game, and like it is Yoshi P. It's Creative Business Unit 3, right?
Yeah.
2, yeah. And like, I wonder. I have no idea what's going to be. Is it open world like 15, or is it more like 7 remake? Because that's newer. Is the battle system going to be close to Final Fantasy VII remake or whatever? Is it like Devil May Cry-esque, like some people think it's going to be?
And there are reasons for that, because the battle director has that experience. But like, when it comes to what our hopes are for Final Fantasy 16, at least from my part, I would say I hope that the game has its own identity and that we will be able to feel that from the get-go.
On a more practical level, I hope it's good, of course, but I also hope they don't dwell too long on it. Like, and I hope they don't spread the narrative over multiple forms of media, like movies or books, which I don't think they're going to do. But I also hope they don't like say we're going to support this for 7 years and we're going to make DLC. And like, I mean, it's fine if they do that, but I just
it would be a very strange move to do that now, because this game is so actively trying to engage with the reception that Final Fantasy 15 got, and to make the same mistakes.
I'm pretty much saying I don't want them to pull a Final Fantasy 15 on this again, which they're not going to do. But you know, that's what I hope.
Yeah. So next question is from S Monster.
Safe Monster.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. He comments on our post. He comments on our posts on Facebook, and I really appreciate it. Like,
you guys should follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, but it's really interesting to sort of, because we are working on different platforms. We're on YouTube and we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter, and you don't always make the connection that these are sometimes the same people. But yeah, very nice to see you here. So which Final Fantasy tropes do you absolutely hate?
You're going to have to give me some examples, because I can't really think of any right now.
Like, the thing is that I was sort of counting on you for this one, because you're a bit more of a hater than I am.
I'm not a hater, I'm a realist. What's wrong with you? I'm pragmatic.
Yes. So as a realist, which Final Fantasy tropes or like things from Final Fantasy do you hate? Absolutely hate.
In my old age, I like video games. I've made a concerted effort to not care as much, and not in a good way, just detach myself emotionally from the stuff. So, name a trope. I mean, are chocobos a trope? I mean, I guess they are, but I like them.
Yeah.
Is what? I'm sure people are thinking of a lot of them right now, but I can't seem to think of any of them.
Well, like, in the context of hating, it's very difficult to think of a trope, and I'm sort of in that mindset. One thing I will say is, like, I don't get characters like Eiko from Final Fantasy IX. I don't get the appeal.
So, like the lolicon thing, or what? Or
yeah. And like, but Eiko is maybe the sort of most extreme manifestation of something like that.
I've got one, and this applies to just anime in general. And I guess this sort of I just thought of it when I played 15, and like Cindy came on the screen for the first time, and I went, God damn it! This is why people think we're all horny nerds, and this is why people do not like us. Cindy does not have to be dressed like that, and if you disagree with me, like, tell me in the comments. But it does not serve her character to be wearing a G-string and her tits in her face, and she's overly sexualized. She does not fit the rest of the aesthetic. So maybe just, hey, make more realistic women that fit into the story, and not just make them hot and
yeah, like,
sorry,
I mostly agree. But like, if Cindy was a more fully fleshed out character, I would be more prone to sort of forgive her appearance, because like it's basically all she is.
It's all she is. She's a man's wet dream, because she likes cars, but she also has titties, and that's just about it. If she wore overalls and then told you about how her dad died and how it affected her as a person, that's much preferable than what we got, really. Sorry, it just came to me because I played the game recently, and my wife walked past and like, what the hell is this? It's like,
but like, is that common in the Final Fantasy series? Do we have a lot of characters like that?
No, we don't. But
well, I guess some people might say that Tifa is a bit sexualized.
Well, that's just like decades of just like hentai fan art that sort of did it. She wasn't this sexualized in the game. She was just like a kick-ass fighter with, yes, huge ass titties, but that wasn't the point. And then just like decades of like fan art made her into the sort of dominatrix sexual goddess, which her character really isn't.
Dominatrix? What have you been looking at?
She's what haven't I been looking at? I've been looking at a lot of deviant art to find some assets for our videos, but goddamn, those deviants get out there.
But yeah, okay, so we don't like over-sexualized things that don't have any substance. And
I mean, I think we're not doing a good job of answering the question, but I can't really think of anything consistent in the series that I don't like that much, that I hate.
No, it's like recurring things like the live stream or some version of the live stream or
crystals
or airships.
I don't mind the crystals. That's fine. I like airships.
Yeah.
What sounds like? Yeah. Anyways, let's move on because we're doing a piss poor job of answering this.
Sorry about that. But yeah, next question. We have another question from Bloodshade over on YouTube, and the question is: which Final Fantasy antagonist was overhyped? Which didn't get enough praise? And I think I know your answer about the overhyped one. But tell me anyway.
Is it Sephiroth?
No, you just played Final Fantasy VI for the first time.
Oh, goddamn, you're right. Like, this is the first time I played Final Fantasy VI through, which is, if you haven't seen Game of Shame, the video I made about it, don't go watch it. So I played the Pixel Remaster version of Final Fantasy VI through the other day for our complete story video. And I've been hearing about Kefka for 30 years. Well, okay, 20 years or something, whatever. How he's the most amazing villain ever. And he's got such depth and depravity. And he just came off as like a subpar Joker. I mean, I guess he's got a backstory, but it wasn't really clear. And, this sort of chaotic evil trope thing. It's a trope, I guess. It, never really resonates with me much. And he was just, let's poison the water. Because I'm mean. You guys shouldn't be here. I'll kill you all. Because I'm really mean. So that's my answer. Like, I didn't really get what the fuss is about.
Yeah, and like, I agree that I feel like Kefka is a bit overhyped. A part of it is
he looks cool. I get that.
He looks cool, and for the time, for the people who actually played the game when it was released, I imagine he was a very powerful antagonist.
It's like watching Monty Python now, and it's like not quite as funny as it first came out because it was really groundbreaking and revolutionary then. But now we've sort of all the things that came after this stuff. You've seen different versions of it, and I have seen the maniacal Joker before. And, maybe he was but maybe he was really different and striking at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, another overhyped villain is probably Sephiroth.
Yeah, goddammit.
Yeah, like
that's edgelord emo kids love that guy.
Yeah, I don't really mind. I don't mind Sephiroth at all.
No, me neither. Yeah,
but it's kind of like a mascot. What's the
mascot?
A mascot.
Yes, mascot.
A mascot. Yeah, so he's a mascot. He's a mascot.
Okay.
Character.
He's a poster child.
He's a poster child for villainy in the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah.
Like, so even if you don't really know who he is, you know who he is. You know about Sephiroth, and a lot of the time you see people talking about him, it doesn't feel like it's coming from a place of understanding of the source material, really.
No.
Yeah, so it's like it's not bad, but it's blown out of proportions.
He's been overhyped over the years. I mean, Final Fantasy VII was such a huge hit, and he's he was a striking figure. He's got a big sword, and don't get me wrong. When I was a kid, like he was the fucking coolest guy ever. Like I was like, he's really cool. Goddamn, look at that guy. But one indication of finding things not being cool is when you thought something was really cool when you were a kid. odds are that it probably isn't as cool as you think it was. That's the way I navigate my life, at least.
I still retain my sense of childlike wonder. But yeah, he is overhyped.
We shouldn't get enough praise.
I have my answer. Like, my answer is my default answer to this question is Vayne Solidor. Yeah, and also Seymour. But
I like Seymour.
But like, there are people who like Seymour, and there are people who really don't like Seymour. But like, Vayne and Final Fantasy XII in general often gets a bit overlooked.
Yeah.
But like, Vayne Solidor, the sort of political villain, is something that I would really like to see make a return in Final Fantasy XVI, even if it's only just like as a secondary villain.
He's
like,
one of the few villains that actually has some depth, I feel. Like, he played the political game, he's got family ties, and I felt he was an actual fully fleshed out character, which is always good for villains.
Yeah, so Vayne is definitely someone I would want to praise at this point in time.
I'm thinking about other villains. So, 8, we had the sorceress. Didn't really care because it's just saw her at the end of the game and it was weird. 9. Ooh, no. Okay, sorry, let's move on. I'm just thinking about games in my head.
Let's go over all the villains from Final Fantasy. But yeah. Barthandelus from Final Fantasy 13 is also... He's okay. He's the Space Pope.
Space Pope. I should play that game again.
Yeah, I'm playing at the moment, and it's great. Like, I didn't appreciate it at first, but like, I love it.
No, it was a huge disappointment at the time.
Yeah, but, we made sushi and everything.
And then it was just like, this cutscenes are still really pretty, but
the game as a whole is very pretty.
Yeah. It was the first PS3, like the next gen quote unquote game after the PS2 era. So like the hopes were really high, and it's hard to match that, what you have in your head.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Next question is from our good friend Skyrant over on Twitter. Yeah. What things in other games have you seen that you would like to see in Final Fantasy XVI? So,
I mean, again, like...
You played Persona 5.
I did. I don't want a time management system in that, but I don't know. I got out of the habit of hyping these big releases in my head too much and wondering and pontificating and guesstimating about what's going to happen. And I think it's a healthier approach, at least for me, to just sort of take things at face value and not put your hopes too high or too low, really.
Something I would like to see in some game that I saw in another game.
What's happening here?
No, I just played Ys 9 Monstrum Nox, I think it's called. And,
that's an awful name.
And like, that game takes place mostly in the same city, and I felt it was really compelling, and the gameplay loop was really addictive in a way. And I started to think I would really like to see Final Fantasy do an experiment with something like this, and like, even with the new Kingdom Hearts trailer in this new city that I don't remember the name of. Like, I wouldn't mind if the game was just in that city and you would really flesh it out, and it would be fun to run around and do stuff. So even if it's not for Final Fantasy XVI, I wouldn't mind if Final Fantasy XVII, as a game that would experiment with something new, would just really, really sell us on the concept of the city. Because we have had some amazing cities in the Final Fantasy series, such as Midgar and Insomnia from Final Fantasy XV, but these cities are never done justice, really.
No, 12 isn't bad either. Like, we've got some, they're not huge, but they're pretty. Like all of 12 is really.
Yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with the cities in 12, but like, and Rabanastre, like, it feels big because it is pretty big in the game, and you sort of get to explore all of it in a way. But like, Midgar and Insomnia have places like that are implied, but not.
It would be great to if the lore has a really large citadel that has this huge history, to be actually able to explore it Like, Insomnia is a great example of this city you see all the time overhead. You see this grand city, and you get to visit it as Arden in the DLC, but it's really, it's not enough, and it doesn't feel great.
Yes.
But in terms of other things I've seen in other games that I want to see in 16, I mean, I agree with that. I would, if I want to get into it, like I would love to have an engaging sort of game loop that I could sort of, if there's a big world that I get to explore and I enjoy exploring and hunts and all this stuff. If it's done well, I enjoy it. Like grinding can be fun if it's done well, and there are some rewards along the way. Like even lore would be great if you. I'm not saying this correctly, but if you tread off the beaten path and do some extra stuff, I really enjoy it when you get paid in lore or something you would not have heard or seen. Paid in lore. Or something that you wouldn't have heard or seen or known about the world if you hadn't done this stuff that isn't mandatory. And that's not I'm not answering the question, but I'm just rambling about 16 now and what I'd like to see.
Yeah, like if 16 adopts a hunting system like in 12, for example, I would really like for the rewards to be lore related.
Yes, I think we're in agreement.
Because like a lot of the hunts in Final Fantasy 12 mostly just net you some nice items or teleport stones, and they only have these few hunts like Gilgamesh and Ismat that are interesting in a way.
I mean, they could even go the sort of monster hunter route where you sort of are fighting these really big beasts and they have a place in the world. And I mean, just sort of nesting the hunts or something a little bit better in the world. But, sometimes that's enough. You just have to sort of make some emotional connection to it. And I'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if 16 had hunts. So let's just hope they implement them in a compelling way.
Moving on.
Yes. So the last question is from Utrix, Boy of Stone.
Boy stuff.
Boy of Stone from Twitter, who asks, we've seen the classic 4 party members, later series entries having 3 becoming stable, as well as 5 and on mobile, even up to 40, with speculation that 16 may be 1 player only. I thought I'd ask so you discuss, which Final Fantasy party size do you prefer or dislike, and why?
How many is it in Final Fantasy VII Remake? Is it 3 or 4?
It's 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, because 15, you have 4 people in total, which feels kind of nice, but 3 was also enough for me in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I like having people with me, and we can do some combos, and I can control them to some extent. I didn't know it was going to be a one-player experience, and it doesn't worry me, but that is a departure, a big one, really.
Well, it's not confirmed or anything, but the trailer only showed Clive fighting alone.
Yeah.
But
Marlboro.
Yeah, but like what I would say is I wouldn't look at this question strictly from a gameplay perspective, but I would also like to think of it in terms of the story and character interactions, because I think that 4 characters or 4 party members, at least when I think about my favorite parties or the favorite party interactions, I think of games like Final Fantasy IX with Zidane, Steiner, Dagger, and Vivi. Yeah. And like, because if it's just 3, then it can feel a bit like there's 2 and then there's the third wheel. While 4 characters like in Final Fantasy 15, like they can play off each other in very interesting ways.
And also, like, for instance, like 12 or 9 or any of those games, when you like enter a village or a new place, you get interaction between the party members where they talk and tell you stuff. And that's a really core part of the experience to me. Like, if you go with, what's her name? The Viera in 12. Fran, goddammit. If you go to the forest with Fran, like, there's a whole backstory there and it's really interesting. And so I'd worry if you were just on your own meeting random people in each town, like, oh, my daughter's hurt, please go help her. And you never make a real connection with all the random people all over the world. That would be my worry, but yeah, I don't have a preference for 3 or 4 really, but sounds like you do.
Like it's not a strong preference. It's just when thinking about the possibilities when it comes to interactions and how the characters interact. Like 4 seems like a good number, but like of course you can have great interactions with just 3 party members. But I would also like to say that even if Final Fantasy XVI is just a single party member game, then that's not necessarily a deal breaker or something bad. Like as an experiment, I think it would be really interesting for a Final Fantasy game to try that. But I would also like to, I wouldn't necessarily want it to become the sort of standard for the series moving forward. And that's why I would like to see the next game in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna keep, if we want them to keep this sort of experimental mentality, then they have to sort of quicken the pace on releasing these games and not be beholden to having them be so quite as big as they are. I guess. Like, how many years has it been since 15 came out? Quite a lot, right?
6 years, I think.
Yeah, that's just. I think it's a bit too much, but you know.
At least, like when you like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, and 10 all came out in the span of 6 years. Like I understand that the developmental landscape is different now, but like they do have I've started to really appreciate sort of shorter but really curated and crafted experiences. Like I'm not talking like 10-hour game, but like a 40 or 50-hour game is fine with me as long as it's crafted well done and curated. Like people always want these 100+ hour game. Not always, but a lot of them do. Like, oh, it's only 80 hours. What a ripoff. Like, eat my dick. But like also like 40 and 50 hours has been pretty standard. So like a 30-hour game, I think, would be considered.
Yeah, 40, 50 is pushing it. But I was trying to be generous. But like, if I'm being realistic, I really enjoy shorter games. And I've got a huge backlog of games I got to play through. And they can't all be 120 hour long.
Yeah. So those have been our answers to the questions.
Yeah, I think we're going to call it a day. If you're still here, thanks for listening. We'll probably do this again one day, right?
Of course, they're still here. Yes, this is a great opportunity to practice English and just to speak to one another.
It's very good to speak English with you, brother. And yes, we're going to say goodbye now. So thanks for listening. Leave us a comment, watch our videos, give us money. Goodbye.
Bird sounds.
Bird sounds.